The pale skin bib is back with a game featuring another pale skinned dude, and that game is Dracula for your Intellivision. And I really dig this Imagic artwork. You got Dracula, who seems to be surprised by some paparazzi taking his picture because he's attending the Dracula super party with Nosferatu in the background and a bat. How cool is that? Let's go ahead and take Dracula, pop it in my Intellivision, and see how it holds up today. Let's go to the game. Dracula is an Intellivision exclusive made by Imagic and carries a copyright year of 1983. It was programmed by Alan Smith, who also programmed the Intellivision version of Dragonfire. The manual opens up with the following introduction. You say you're always thirsty, Count Dracula? You say you're the most unpopular guy in town, that people always run from the sight of you? You say the police harass you every chance they get, even when you're just minding your own business? And you claim that even birds and animals are unfriendly no matter what you do. And you've got insomnia every night and are allergic to the sun. Well, my man, I'd say you've got some grave problems. Grave problems. It's funny because it's true. Dracula is an action game for 1 or 2 players and has 3 skill levels: easy, medium, and hard. You use the top row on the overlay to select the number of players, the second row for the skill level, and press the start button on the third row to begin your game. You use the disc to move Dracula, the top side buttons to turn into a bat or back into your human form if you are the bat, the bottom left side button to bite a victim to gain blood, and the bottom right side button to bite a victim to turn them into a zombie that can be controlled with the second controller. You start the game as Dracula, rising from his coffin at midnight. Your goal each night is to replenish your blood level by biting victims and returning to your coffin before the sun rises at 6 a.m. At the beginning of your game, on the bottom of your screen, you will see from right to left your score, the remaining number of victims you need to drain blood from in order to reach your goal before the night ends, the time, and a blood level meter. You could find victims either on the street or in houses. If you see a pair of eyes peeking out of a window of a house, you can knock on the door by walking up to it and pressing up on the disc. Because this is apparently a village full of idiots, this will usually result in the person from the house running outside, giving you a chance to attack them after you temporarily freeze, giving them a head start. However, if a pair of eyes in the house saw you attacking another victim, they will not answer the door, so at least they got that going for them. Also, you cannot knock on the door if a potential victim is already nearby, even if you can't see them on the screen. Sometimes you may run across the constable. You cannot drain blood from him, but you can temporarily paralyze him by biting him. He in turn can throw wooden stakes at you that can temporarily paralyze yourself. There is, however, a way to defeat him. If you bite a victim with the lower right side button, you will not get any blood from it, but you will temporarily turn them into a zombie that can be controlled with the second controller. If the zombie touches the constable within about 10 seconds before he disappears, he will make the constable himself disappear. If you reach the number of goal victims during the night, a white wolf will appear. If he bites you, he will slow you down for the rest of the night. To avoid the wolf or the constable, you can turn into a bat, but when you're a bat, sometimes a purple vulture will appear. If he grabs you and is able to take you off the screen, your game will end. Your game can also end if you're still outside at 6 a.m. when the sun rises. You are warned that the sun is about to rise at 5 a.m. when the sky changes color. You can return to your coffin either after you've successfully attacked enough victims or once it hits 5 a.m. on the easy and medium skill levels. The town is shaped like a loop, so if you keep going in one direction, you will eventually return to the graveyard. If you make it back to your coffin by pressing up at the graveyard gate, you will arise the next night, sometimes having to drain the blood of more victims. On the easy skill level, you start only having to drain the blood of 3 victims. The vulture does not appear until the second night, and the constable does not appear until the third night, the 5th night, and every night after that. On the medium level, you start with a goal of 6 victims. The vulture can appear at any time, you turn into a bat, and the constable starts patrolling the street on the second night. On the hard level, you start having to attack 8 victims. Both the vulture and constable appear on the first night, and Dracula cannot return to his coffin unless he gets all the necessary victims. You can also lose the game by running out of blood. Simply walking uses up a little bit of blood, and flying as the bat uses more. The status on the bottom of the screen that includes your blood level meter shows up at the beginning of the game and whenever you successfully bite a person, but for most of the game it is not visible. However, if you want to see it, you can simply press any key on the controller and it will show up. To successfully bite a person, to get more blood, your head should be in line with the back of their neck while biting. If you run low on blood, you will turn completely white, warning you that you could soon die if you don't get more blood. But dying this way is not very common. Scoring wise, you get 50 points for biting a victim and 75 points if you destroy the constable with a zombie. When you return to the graveyard, you get 50 bonus points for every victim you get past the second one, and 50 points for every hour before 6 a.m. you return. Not only can a second player control the zombie in a single player game, but the game also has two-player options. In the two-player alternating mode, each player uses the opposite controller and alternates nights playing the game. In the two-player same time game, the players take turns controlling Dracula or the victim. There are no zombies in this game mode, but the player controlling the victim gets 5 points every time Dracula tries to bite them but misses. Graphically speaking, this is one very nice looking game. I like the town and the characters. The only negative is how goofy the biting animation looks on Dracula. Sound and music wise, the game also does a good job with some simple sound effects and a little music in between nights. I also like how you have delayed thunder after you see the lightning flash, whereas most games don't bother to separate them. Family friendly wise, this is an interesting game since you don't see any blood when biting the victims, but the goal of the game is to attack and I assume kill innocent people. If this game was rated today, I could see it getting an E10 and up or a T for teen rating. At the time I researched on eBay, including shipping, loose copies were going for $16 to $22 and complete copies were selling for $33 to $49. So what did I think of Dracula on the Intellivision? Well, I had a bit of a mixed experience with this one. On the plus side, this game does a great job with the presentation, with great graphics, sounds, and even box art. It's also a very creative take on the Dracula formula, and it controls fairly well. I also like the different two-player options and how a second player can help out by controlling zombies in the single-player game. On the flip side, it can be frustratingly hard to connect with your bites at times. The isometric effects on the controls can be a little bothersome, and the game simply gets repetitive pretty quick. I actually got to a point where I lost interest in the game after completing a few nights. Also, personally, when I play games, I don't like being a bad guy whose goal is to attack or kill innocent people. I'd much rather try to stop the bad guy instead. So in the end, I really liked the presentation of Dracula, but the gameplay didn't do much for me. So where am I going to rank Dracula? Somewhere in the middle. I'll put it over Congo Bongo at 6 since it controls a whole lot better than Congo Bongo, but I do like Popeye more at 5 since it has more variety with its 3 different stages. So out of the 8 games I've now ranked on the Intellivision, Dracula is lurking into the 6th position. Dracula looks good and has an interesting approach, but it's also pretty repetitious. So what do you think of Dracula? Whether you agree or disagree with me, feel free to let me know in the comments below. Also, feel free to click like and subscribe and follow me both on the Facebook or the Twitter. I'm also a member of the Retro Junkies Network. At this time, I'd like to thank the extraordinary Mark for supporting the show through Patreon. Thank you, Mark. If you appreciate the work I do, please consider joining the League of Extraordinary Patreon Supporters by signing up at patreon.com/NoSwearGamer. Thank you for giving me a little part of your day, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the next episode of the No Swear Gamer. Take care, and if you hear a knock on your door in the middle of the night, I'd think twice before answering it.